What's good, everyone? TKZ back here, giving you my April top 10. This video will be a little different with the travel to Japan. It took me a while to finish All-Star Queendom, and there was a bit of a pre-Japan and post-Japan level of enjoyment with wrestling with me. I had such a good time in Dragon Gate, it's affected how I feel about everything else. So I watched everything until the top 3 matches of All-Star Queendom on the flight to Japan, and then everything thereafter in May post Dead or Alive. And so my ratings and enthusiasm is dipped a bit for everything after that, just because I had such a good time in Dragon Gate. The original inspiration of this channel and this video diary was AEW had moved in a direction that I had disassociated with, and I kind of lost my emotional attachment to that company. And along with having a bit of FOMO reading the Bow Top 100, I wanted to branch out and watch more wrestling kind of across the board, because I didn't have that love of one singular company. And Dragon Gate has kind of taken that opportunity and snatched it up for me, and now I have that deep connection with Dragon Gate, and it's making everything else suffer a bit. We'll see how long that lasts as I get further removed from Japan and that Dead or Alive experience. Maybe that will lower, or maybe my enthusiasm for the wrestling will increase again. But I feel like everything else has a bit of an artificial ceiling. So, along with that, some of my notes seem to have disappeared, or I didn't save my documents or something. So my notes are a bit lacking this month for the April top 10. And I'm really struggling getting through everything not Dragon Gate for May, so I don't think there's going to be a May top 10. We'll see how it goes, but right now my May top 10 will just be all Dragon Gate matches. So that seems a bit silly when I'm giving you Dragon Gate show reviews anyway. So we're going to breeze through the honorable mentions for this month before we get into the top 10, because my notes are just kind of lacking. So without further ado, honorable mentions for the month of April. I got 3 matches from All-Star Queendom. I've got Starlight Kid versus Azumi. I've got Suzu Suzuki versus Mei Sarai, and I got Mayu Iwatani versus Sari. I gave all 3 of these matches 3 3/4 stars. They all were pretty fun in their own way. The emotional pool of the 2 title matches I struggled with. That bloody fight between Suzuki and Sari was fun, but ultimately it didn't feel great to me. I also gave 3 3/4 stars to Mercedes Moné and Athena from their One Heart tournament match on the April 16th TV episode of AEW. Kenny Omega versus Speedball Mike Bailey versus Ricochet from Dynasty for the international title. Got 3 3/4 stars. The only note on that match that I gave was it was so damn long, which doesn't give justice to how good the match actually was, because it was a good match. It was just too long. It was probably like 10 minutes too long, which I think bumped it out of the 4-star range. Ryoya Tanaka versus Riiita also had 3 3/4 stars. The opening match of the Brave Gate tournament did not disappoint. These guys pulled out all the stops and did some tremendous stuff, but there just wasn't a whole lot of emotional pull, even with the incredible near falls. And the final honorable mention I have is the Astronauts versus Nakamura and Aoki from DDT on April 6th. Abe and Aoki had a very fun grappling exchange to open this match. This was my first time seeing Nakamura, and his offensive style is very wacky and fun. This match didn't really feature any combination offense, which I think held it back from being really special. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. It was just pretty short and didn't get out of second gear for me. Coming in at number 10 for April, I have Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher from AEW Dynasty on April 6th. These two just click every time they wrestle, and despite this being one of the lower stakes matches on the pay-per-view, I thought it ended up being the best match on the show. This was a 4-star match. It wasn't a whole lot different from their previous encounters, but I think they took advantage of being on pay-per-view without commercials and all the hang-ups of a TV match, as opposed to their previous encounters on Collision. Coming in at number 9, I had Zebrats versus Hyo, KZ, and Ben K from Dragon Gate USA on April 18th. The main event of Dragon Gate's USA excursion was the 3 members of Zebrats involved in the Dead or Alive main event, taking on the face army of Hyo, KZ, and Ben K. While the Hyo Contra Hyo angle didn't play into this match much, for regular Dragon Gate followers, all 3 members of the face team were involved in the storyline against each other, and they were both trying to impress Hyo to join their unit. With this being the second Dragon Gate USA show and the end of the weekend, all 6 of these guys had learned what worked for their American audience and put on a masterclass of crowd work, mixed with classic Zebrats brawling and traditional Dragon Gate 6-man tag action. This was the show of WrestleMania weekend, and while this wasn't the best match from the show, the main event carried a lot of weight to reach that accomplishment. This was 4 stars. Coming in at number 8 was the team of Hanan and Iida versus Hazuki and Koguma from All-Star Queendom Stardom, April 27th. My favorite match from All-Star Queendom, of course, involved my favorite act of Hanan and Iida. This match was stiff as hell and felt like these 4 women were giving each other real receipts. While Suzuki and Sarai on the undercard was a hardcore match featuring weapons and blood, I felt this match delivered a more brutal product. Hazuki matched the intensity of her stablemates, but ultimately crumbled to the vicious nature of Iida and Hanan's offense. This was 4 stars. Coming in at number 7, Hirooki Goto versus Shota Umino IWGP Heavyweight Championship from New Japan's Windy City Riot, April 11th. Shota finally put it all together on this night in Chicago opposite Goto. This match was hard-hitting and had great near falls and storytelling throughout. Shota had these flashes where you could see all the potential in him, and it's just a matter of him doing it more consistently. If New Japan saved this for Dontaku, it might have been 4.5 stars. On this night, without the full Goto atmosphere, it was just 4. Coming in at number 6 was Dragon Gate, April 19th, D-Courage versus D-Courage. Our final big lead-up show to Dead or Alive saw tensions boil over, with the inner turmoil tag of Madoka Kikuta and Ryoya Tanaka taking on stablemates Yuki Yoshioka and Dragon Dia. This is what you would expect from 4 of Dragon Gate's top stars getting the time and emotional beats to have a great match. You felt the distrust and jealousy throughout the contest, as well as the frenetic pace and action I love from Dragon Gate. This rocked and sold the Dead or Alive main event for me. I gave this 4 stars. Coming in at number 5 was Konosuke Takeshita versus Hiroshi Tanahashi from New Japan's Windy City Riot on April 11th. On Tanahashi's final night in the United States, he had the perfect opponent to summon it out of him for one final time. This match had all the emotion and drama you would expect, and it was expertly built around Ace's limitations. I thought the ending was a bit anticlimactic watching live, but I'm reserving judgment to like it more upon a second watch. 4 stars. Coming in at number 4 was Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita from AEW TV, April 16th. What more really needs to be said when 2 of the absolute best in the world are at their peak of their powers clash? Takeshita is my runaway wrestler of the year 1/3 of the way through 2025, and it's hard to argue anyone but Will Ospreay is the best wrestler in the world. This didn't reach the level of their Revolution clash from last year, but these 2 could sleepwalk their way to a 4-star match. I gave this one 4.25. Coming in at number 3 was Daiki Yanagiuchi versus YAMATO from Dragon Gate, April 7th for the Open the Brave Gate title. My god, did I love the story they told with this match. YAMATO had no respect for Daiki and thought he had no business being in there with him. YAMATO was better in every way, but Daiki did not care and would not be broken. Daiki will be an underdog for the entirety of his career, but he had the real fire and stubborn determination in this match to never back down from YAMATO. This was just incredible work out of both men, and as of April 7th, I think Daiki Yanagiuchi has gotten the best performance out of YAMATO in 2025, despite him having a strong year and championship run overall. I can't recommend this enough. I gave this 4.25 stars. And at number 2 was Hirooki Goto versus David Finlay from April 5th, New Japan's Sakura Genesis. David Finlay earned this title shot by winning the New Japan Cup. Following a strong Wrestle Kingdom and Dynasty showing, he felt like the odds-on favorite to win that tournament and the title here. Opposite him is Hirooki Goto, the longtime bridesmaid who finally climbed the mountain back in February. When you are a champion like Goto, you always feel like a placeholder and an underdog, and Goto wore this tonight as he came out very strong and took it right to Finlay, clearly overwhelming him early. Finlay clawed his way back into this, but Goto was in firm control here early. Goto countered a powerbomb into the steel post with a Hurricane Rana, and Finlay looked like he gave himself a shoot concussion. Eventually the fighting in the phone booth catches up with Goto, and the style suits Finlay more, so he gains control. Finlay hits a series of lariats, crossfaces, and a dominator, which is what he does best. Too much taunting Goto's children costs Finlay as he gets a Death Valley driver through 2 tables on the outside. I thought the opening in this match was great, but post that table spot that is when this match really went into overdrive. The snap on Finlay's signature spots is excellent. Goto would not be denied and hit 3 GTRs to retain and keep the dream run going. This was 4.5 stars. I thought this match was fantastic. Coming in at number 1 was the Lucha Solos versus the Panther Brothers from Dragon Gate USA on April 18th. One of my favorite things that can happen in wrestling is when you watch a match or company and know nothing about it and walk away blown away by what you saw. Dragon Gate USA gave me just that in the Lucha Solos versus Panther Brothers. All 4 of these men treated this like a WrestleMania weekend of yesteryear, and went out there with the goal of impressing and blowing the minds of hundreds to thousands of wrestling fans that had never seen or heard of them. Mission accomplished. These guys left it all out in this match, and it was phenomenal from start to finish. A lot of breathtaking high risk in Lucha Libre that reminded me of first discovering Dragon Gate in PWG 15 years ago. This match was 4.5 stars. These guys tore the roof down. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if I missed anything. If you have any further recommendations for April or May or anything else from earlier in the year that I might have missed. Have a good one. Bye.